What is going on, folks? How are you doing on this beautiful Sunday? Well, at least it's beautiful Sunday here in Detroit, Michigan.
Mhm.
I'm Manny Vitale, host of My Fight Our War, co-host of Music and Mayhem with Skylar Ray, and co-host of My Brother's Keeper of Bikers podcast with Thomas Guffey Vestergaard. And we have a special edition, My Fight Our War today. And that's actually, I'm trying to share it out right now, which we just did.
Okay, good.
So we've we've got a returning guest who had so much going on. Actually, our first time. I'm going to pop OG on here. First time we have John Tewell coming on again because we had a little issue with the time zones and all that stuff. So we had a bit of a late start and weren't able to get a lot of stuff in. So we definitely wanted
So he's
to
back.
get more of the insight from John from his last episode, and plus he's got a lot more going on too that we are going to share as well. So
And I've got my pen ready, so I'm
we've
I'm
got
gonna be watching.
OGs
Yep,
ready
yep, yep.
to get her carpal tunnel going.
Yep.
Let's pop John on here. There
And
he is.
there he is.
What's
Yay,
up, brother? How you doing,
yay.
John?
How's it going?
Where's Gordon?
Gordon's back in his cage.
Okay.
Okay.
And people are going.
He's eating.
You
They're
think
like,
somebody
"Who's
named Gordon? Is that your
Gordon
kid?
is an iguana,
Yep.
right? Yeah. And
Yeah.
we're sitting there
I'll
and
pull him out real quick.
And
Yeah.
so we had Gordon the iguana making his debut. And so that's who Gordon is, who you are going to see shortly.
Dun, dun, dun.
There's Gordon.
Da-da-da.
I'm sorry. How old did you say he is? 9?
He's 9 years old.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
And he just hangs out like that. If you just leave him out, he'll just hang out with you and stuff.
Yeah, he goes everywhere with me, actually. When I go to like rock concerts and different events, I went and seen the Moonshine Bandits in Chicago, and he comes everywhere with me, man. People love him.
Oh yeah, I bet.
No shit. So with all those people, he doesn't freak out and get all skittish and stuff, or like with that, especially
Nope.
with the loud music and all.
No.
Wow,
Since he was a baby, I've messed with his tail and stuff, so he doesn't whip or anything like that. He doesn't bite. Kids hold him all the time. His nails are cut, so he can't really scratch you very much.
Very much.
Well,
Still has
you-
teeth though.
huh?
Does he have teeth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. Gordon,
he's got teeth.
He's got teeth.
No,
Okay.
Gordon will let you know. He'll let you know when he's pissed. But so
When you
everyone,
take him out, do you put him like on a leash or something so people can't snatch him?
No, he usually stays pretty close to me. He doesn't run off or anything.
Wow, I'm amazed.
what does Gordon eat?
Everything but lettuce as far as vegetables. Dandelion greens, collard greens, turnip greens, mustard greens, green beans, squash, yellow squash,
Wow,
all kinds of fruit.
he's healthy.
Mm.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Iguanas have been a major part of my life since I was a kid. I've always loved iguanas.
Nice. Nice.
They're very misunderstood. Everybody I've ever met is like, he doesn't bite, he doesn't whip, he doesn't poop everywhere. It's like, no, it's for me, it's about the stigma.
Uh-huh.
Man, what better of a pet to have for someone like us? That's like for me when I've always had dogs. I've always had rescues, and of course, you get rescues. Most of them end up being pits and stuff like that. And as soon as you just say pit, they're like, they don't even see the dog yet. Oh, I don't want to go near them. You haven't even seen them, and it's kind of like
It's
us.
the same way with iguanas.
Yeah, I mean the iguanas, pit bulls, addicts.
Addict.
Oh no, man, I
Don't
don't want to
wanna
be
go
around
near 'em.
that. And now look at us. Now people are asking for us
Uh-huh.
for advice, for shows, for store, or for events. So,
Uh-huh.
and that's why you're back, man.
And Leroy's in the house.
Leroy's in the house. Leroy Ebron.
Hi, Leroy. We love you.
So yeah, John, we had John a while back, and like I said, we did have to kind of mess with the length of the
Timing.
show just because of mix up some time and stuff. But you had a lot of stuff that was important that needs to be talked about. Plus, you've got some more that you want to discuss. So we're gonna kind of combine
Put me on.
everything together. So
Yep.
let's just jump in a little bit of a recap from the last show into that, and then we'll go into what you want to discuss with the suicide prevention and all that as well.
Gotcha. So, yeah, episode 1, we discussed my 2 near-death experiences before the age of 10, where I had an event where I fell down the stairs when I was younger, and let him do what he wants. But fell down the stairs, almost died when I was like 2 years old, and then when I was 10 years old, my stepfather actually got on top of me, asphyxiated me, choked me to death. And then I went into foster care for a period of time, and you know, during episode 1, we had talked about what's that?
I just
No,
asked,
I just
I just
took
told man
OG
to put
off.
me in the green room so I could start writing and not look like I'm not paying attention.
But yeah, we had talked about everything that had happened after that, as far as leading into addiction and stuff. And as I was watching episode 1, I realized I because of the time constraints, I had left out a major portion of my story. After I had gotten asphyxiated by my stepfather, and for those who haven't seen that part of the conversation, I highly suggest go back and watch episode 1, because it's pretty good.
Definitely.
Definitely.
That's very, very good.
But yeah, we're going to kind of pick up where we left off with that. After my dad got me back from foster care, he started trying to figure out what was wrong with me, which, I mean, to me, it was pretty obvious. I had a, abusive, like everything, like obviously I was fucked up, but my dad was so busy working. He was an over the road truck driver. And so he'd be gone for 3 months at a time. And the only thing he knew to do was pay for a therapist to try to figure it out, because he couldn't be present, and there was a lot of resentment towards my father for not being around. But what it meant for me is, once my dad got custody of me, he sent me to places like Streamwood Mental Health Institution and the third floor of Swedish American and various places. And they were hooking up all these wires to my head, trying to do brain scans and figure out what was going on with me. And all throughout my teenage years, I had been diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, bipolar, schizophrenia, borderline personality disorder, like all these different things. And from the time I was 12 to when I was 17, 18, started getting into addiction, throughout all those years, it was therapist after therapist after therapist. What's wrong with my kid? What's wrong with my kid? And dad was never actually spending the time with me to talk to me, to try to work through any of the issues, And so there's a chapter in my book. I'm writing 4 books on PTSD. Instead of book 1, 2, 3, 4, it's book PTSD. And there's a chapter in my book about pain tolerance, which is the P, and where it's called Pharmaceutical Playground. And it discusses this period of my life. I honestly felt like I was just a lab rat. Doctors were just throwing darts at the wall trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And throughout those years, I was prescribed Xanax, Adderall, Ritalin, Depakote, Concerta, Paxil, Strattera. There was probably more, but that's just what's coming, that's just off the top of the head there, If we were having this conversation with one of my parents, maybe they'd be able to rattle them all off, but it was a lot. At one point I was taking like 10, 12 different medications, and this one had a side effect for that one. So we had to take, this to counteract that. And nobody ever took the time to figure out me. They just wanted to put stuff in me to try to make me someone
Yeah, I mean,
at
take a
that
pill.
period of my life, you got to think, I'm like 12, 14, 15 years old. I'm still trying to figure out who the fuck I am. And then you're going to add all these chemicals to it, and it just made it so much worse, man. So much worse. And so when I turned 17 and I had my BMX accident, I broke 13 bones in my body, fractured my skull, broke my collarbone, right arm, right leg, and my spine. At that time, I had some mental health prescriptions, Xanax being one of them, Adderall being another, and so these things were valuable when you're going to concerts, stuff like that.
Yeah. Money maker, man.
Oh yeah. So started going to concerts. I'm sneaking drinks, you know. Didn't really see too much of a problem with that. I never really had too much of a problem with alcohol. I never like I mean, yeah, I like to drink as like a party, you know, party favor, whatever, just to have fun, but it wasn't my drug of choice. My drug of choice was all of them. I just wanted to have fun, and I wanted to be the yes man, and I didn't want to be lame or, whatever. So like if it was there, I would do it. And so I started drinking, and I remember I'm at a concert, probably like 19 at this point, and because my buddy Zach was still alive, I remember, and a few people that were present at the time. So I had to have been like 19, and we were having what we used to call kickbacks. You know, I'm kind of a redneck at heart, so when we weren't at concerts or partying or whatever, we would have these kickbacks where you get a keg and a bunch of pallets and a few trucks. And you go out in the country and you light the pallets on fire and you tap the keg and you party all night. Listening to Moonshine Bandits and stuff. And I was at this party. Well, I'm at this party, middle of the sticks, and I was really drunk and I was throwing up. And somebody who I considered a friend at the time, one of my books is on trauma bonding. So, you got to be careful who your friends are when you're going through traumatic experiences. And, that's how this whole cycle started with me. So yep. I'm drunk. I'm throwing up. My buddy comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, man, if you just bump this," he's like, "you won't feel drunk no more. I promise." And I was just miserable. I drank way too much, And he convinced me. One little bump, man, I felt perfectly fine. I'm like, cool, let's go party. Let's go right back to it. Let's go. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. This is like something I've never experienced before, something that can just in an instant just make me feel better, And so that once I discovered cocaine, man, it was over with, because at that point I'm like, oh, I can do anything, like quite literally.
Oh, man, you're invincible, man. Yeah, you think you could do it all.
Yeah.
Boy, I tell you what, like you said, 1 minute you're ready to black out and done, and the next minute it's like, what do you want to do? Everything. There's just the possibilities are endless. There was a thing on, I don't know if you watch wrestling at all, with Shawn Michaels. And he pretty much said something like that, though. He goes, the first time I was introduced to cocaine, and he just looked up, he goes, all I remember is after doing that first one was, this is the greatest shit ever. And he goes, it was like that. He went from this to this. I mean, just, and yeah, and then we know what happens after that. So please continue.
So yeah, cocaine was the bad one. That was the one that really, started to take over. And with my PTSD, sometimes I do have a tendency to like get dates wrong and stuff, but I'm going to try to be as accurate as possible. I met my kid's mom in 2018. So I graduated 2012. I was 24. So I met her when I was 24, and I had known her since like 7th grade. And I had always like wanted to be with her, but never really had the opportunity, And so we pretty much fell in love like right away. I mean, I went over to her house and never left. We were together for years, and it was very early on in that relationship where we were partying at her house on the weekend. Me and my buddy Zach, rest in peace, Zach. I miss you. But we were partying at her house on the weekend, and she didn't know that I was on drugs, like most of the whole relationship, I kept it a secret, but one day she came in and well, she was obviously at those parties, but I just never did drugs around her. You know, I'd always close the door, or like go in the other room real quick and just, you know, and she knew I drank, but nothing crazy, you know. So one day she caught me doing cocaine, and I'll never forget. She said, "You're either going to stop doing this right now, or I'm going to leave you." And I told her, I was like, I'm done, you know. And the parties stopped, and Zach died, and throughout the years we had like a really rough, you know, it wasn't the greatest relationship, but we had gotten together in 2018. So yeah, 2018. My daughter was born. I was 24. We got together in. See, I should have done this self-reflection before we did this episode, but oh well.
Yeah,
That's why
let it roll.
That's why I like these moments, because it gives me, like, with PTSD, it's really hard to put all these things together. You know, it's like your life just kind of flashes in like these traumatic moments, and I do a lot of
Put
this in
little clarity together.
therapy. So we got together 2012. So we got together 2 years. So 2014. Yeah, everything I just said happened in 2014. We got together. Zach was still alive. We were partying. She caught me doing cocaine, and then for those 4 years up until my daughter was born, she assumed I was sober. From 2014 to 2018, she assumed I was sober. I wasn't.
No, that's hard to keep that shit. I mean, when you get to that point, either she may have suspected, but I mean, if you're doing that much, and you said daily, right?
It was a lot. Yeah.
I
It
mean,
wasn't really daily. It was more like I'd get my paycheck and buy a bag and be out in 3 days, you know.
that's a lot, brother. But
But it was weed, cocaine, alcohol, and Xanax mainly. Were the ones that I really kept doing, you know. And it was like after work, you know, before I got home type of thing, you know, or I'd leave early for work, you know, stuff like that. So that's kind of how I got away with it for those 4 years. But then when my daughter was born, that's the one thing I always wanted. My whole life was always fucked up. I've been with, you know, a few different women throughout the years and everything. I always wanted a kid of my own. I didn't care if it was a son or a daughter. I just wanted a kid because my dad was never there. And I told myself, hell or high water, I'm going to be the best father I can be. But like throughout the years, it never happened. You know, I had tried to have children before in past relationships and stuff, and it never happened. So I just assumed maybe it was just never going to happen for me. So when my daughter was born, you know, we had already had two miscarriages in those 4 years. And speaking of traumatic experiences, right? I found out after we had broke up and everything, like just in the last couple of years, I found out that the reason why she had an abortion on the second kid is because she didn't know if it was mine or not.
oh yeah, well, you
She
know,
never told me that, so that was pretty traumatic. But we had already lost 2 kids, and so when my daughter was born and was alive and wasn't stillborn, you know, I was like, I'm done. I'm done doing drugs. I'm not doing drugs at all anymore. And I didn't. My daughter's birthday is my sobriety date.
all right.
And so she's 6 years old now. You know, I always say I'm 6 years sober, and I totally quit. But what that meant was I had been lying for those 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
She thought I was sober. So now my daughter's born. My grandmother died, which my grandmother was, if you watched episode 1, and, you know, my grandmother was like a mother to me. She watched me when my father wasn't there, you know. And so my grandmother died 3 days before my daughter was born. I'm trying to get sober. I'm already, you know, my daughter's on the way. So around this time, I had already, you know, kind of backed off. I knew I was getting sober. My daughter was on the way. And then my grandma dies. And then my daughter's born. And then I have to maintain a full-time job. My kid's mom wasn't working. You know, she had just had a baby and everything. So the bills are piling up. Stress is just hitting me left and right, man. And we had just discussed before we went live earlier about the brain and,
Oh yeah.
reconstructing itself, and so we're going to get into a little bit of my addiction knowledge now. I see we're 20 minutes in. I'm being sensitive to the time, but I didn't know back then what I knew now. I've spent the last 6 years figuring this out, and with my therapist and reading multiple books and talking to other people in the field and everything. When you're in active addiction, it limits your neuroplasticity. In other words, like, there's a reason why drug addicts wake up and they say, I need my drug of choice. That's the first thing they think about when they wake up. If they don't get it, it's all they can think about, because their neuroplasticity is so limited that's about the only brain connection there is me and my drug, me and my drug. And so when you're getting sober, it takes time for these connections to fix themselves, because your brain hasn't really been firing on all 8 cylinders for a long time. And so soon as my daughter was born, I started, having trouble regulating my emotions. I was angry sometimes. Other times I would sit on the couch and she'd be speaking to me and I would just totally flat out ignore her. Like I didn't even hear her because I was so focused on the TV or whatever, like just zoning out, and just all these different, symptoms of trying to get sober. And then, especially the anger was the big one. I was snappy all the time, and nobody likes that. So,
Oh no.
3 months into my daughter being born, my daughter was 3 months old. It was March 15th, if I remember correctly. I know I'm close. We'll say March 15th. I'm pretty sure. If I went on my Phoenix app, I have the date on my Phoenix app, the recovery app. But she left me. She said, I can't take this. I don't know what the hell is going on with you, but you're not the person, like something's not right. I'm leaving, And so we had a really rough breakup. And like I said, that's the only thing I ever wanted, was to be a dad, right? And when you consider all the other traumatic experiences in my life, falling down the stairs at the age of 2, being choked to death at the age of 10, my BMX accident and losing my purpose and not being able to race anymore, and then my grandma dying and everything else,
just having one of those. I mean, everything that you just said is terrible. It's traumatic, and all of that. Having one of those things that just happened to somebody, if you had all those. I mean, and we all look for that Band-Aid. And I was saying back what you said about your dad and how he wasn't there, but I'm gonna send you to a therapist. And what are they gonna do? Put a Band-Aid on the problem. So I get you, man. But just kind of just the backstep here. What you were just talking about is all those things that happened to you. Like, oh yeah, the stairs, being choked out, this. One of those things is enough to take someone who is having issues. Just one of those is enough to push someone over the edge and start using, man. So for you to be able to, hold on as long as you did, says a lot about you as a person.
Especially being treated like a pharmaceutical rat. Like I said, from the ages of 12 to 16, they were shoving pills down my throat. They weren't actually asking me any questions to solve the real problems as to what was going on, I would even tell therapists, like, my mom relapsed, and then nobody'd come and pick her up and arrest her. You know what I mean? Like, my mom's still an active user to this day. I don't see her getting arrested.
They're just giving you another pill.
Keep her name on social media, but I'm just saying, like, people get away with this shit all the time, and it's like they need help, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they steal a candy bar. And they go on the news as a robber. The store got robbed today. Oh, I wonder why. Let's figure out why this dude's robbing stores, because I'm pretty sure he's not just robbing stores for fun. He
didn't rob it for that, just for that candy bar. You know what? And look at find the solution to the problem, not solution to the symptom.
Mm-hmm.
Basically.
Yeah. So where we were, 3 months in, 3 months into my daughter being born, she left. She had enough of it. She couldn't figure out what was going on. I wasn't being honest with her. I didn't tell her that I was just now starting to get sober. I didn't, for those 4 years that we were together, she didn't know I was using. She thought I quit when she told me to quit, So all this was like really out there for her. She didn't know what was going on, So she decided to leave. And when that happened, I started to have my PTSD moments, At that time, I don't even think I was diagnosed with PTSD yet, or if I was, it was very early on, because around the time my daughter was born was when I started seeing a therapist on a regular basis. And so I'm having these flashbacks, man, of all these moments in my life that we just discussed, and my daughter being ripped from me was the hardest thing in the world. And so 3 months into my sobriety, I called a friend of mine, and I don't remember if I had said this on episode 1 or not, but I called a friend of mine, and I knew what I was doing. I knew why I was going there. I knew everything, I wanted to end my life. That's what I wanted to do. And so on that day, 3 months into my sobriety, I went to a party and I did every drug I could find. There was methamphetamines there. There was mushrooms there. There was Xanax. There was cocaine. There was Adderall. There was alcohol. There was ecstasy. I don't know if I'm naming them all, but I did everything but heroin that night. And I physically, I was like, I'm going to die. That's what I'm coming here to do, and I'm at the party and everybody's like, yeah, John, like you're like the fucking life of the party, fucking woo, whatever. Like, and I'm sitting here like observing their interactions with me as like, I'm like this cool dude or whatever. Cause I'm, doing all the drugs and like partying the hardest and everything. And it's like, this is that was honestly when I did finally wake up from that experience, that is what painted the picture of suicide for me. Like everybody says, you need to look for the symptoms of suicide. There are no symptoms. I'm suicidal every day of my life. I don't like people. I feel like we all fail each other constantly. I feel like there's so much that everybody can do for everybody that nobody does for anybody. And like this world sucks. It's just not as inclusive and supportive as what I envision Christ would want this world to be like, and it makes me sick. I don't want to be here. And there are no signs. I'll be coming from somebody who literally lives with suicide every day. I'll tell you right now, there are no signs. The signs,
what they say, John, is a lot of times with the signs, and you could answer this better than I can. But by the grace of God, I've never had that feeling. But I've talked to people who have, and it's like the ones who are sitting there always talking about, I'm gonna throwing all these like, I'm gonna do this. They're like, those are the ones that, not to worry is not what I'm saying. Don't worry about them. Of course, if you're gonna say something like that, that's a red flag. But the ones who don't say anything, it's like, I never knew. Those are the ones that, like you just said, what are the signs? There might be some subtle things, but that could be so many other different things. But I just remembered hearing that from other people that you just described as, the ones who say that they're going to do it and keep making these threats. Maybe that's a call for help. But like the ones that are very like the suicidal ones, I mean, you can answer this better than me there, that there is no, I mean, it's just, kind of jump right to it, man. And, the signs are you're keeping everything in, and you keep that much pain in, man. It's got to go somewhere. And sometimes the way it comes out is the way
Yeah, I always subscribe to the fact that there are no signs. You got people that say, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, and some of them do, and some of them don't. And then you've got the ones who isolate, and some of them do, And some of them will go to their bedroom for 3 weeks. Some of them will go to their bedroom for 3 weeks and lay in the covers and just sulk and bask and deal with whatever it is they got going on, and then they'll reemerge. And so there are no signs. The signs are treat people, everybody, the way you would want to be treated, with dignity, respect, love, and care. And then you won't have to worry about it as much. But no matter what, you should always be worried about it, because, I mean, statistically, I'll give you some statistics. We'll drop out a little knowledge on you. 150,000 people a year overdose. Do you know how many people commit suicide in the same amount of time? It's 740,000. In the same amount of time it takes 150,000 people to overdose, 740,000 people will kill themselves.
Whoa.
No, I did not have those stats,
A
John.
hell of a statistic.
Suicide happens at a rate 7 times faster than overdose, and nobody talks about it. And then you go to an NA meeting, and they go through the scripture at the beginning of the meeting, and they say, we as addicts didn't realize that we were slowly committing suicide. So tell me, what's the difference?
You just said it.
That's the way I look at it. It's a lack of care for your own life, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's mental health, whatever it is, and one of the big things that I struggle with in my life is being alone. That's like the biggest thing for me. I've pretty much been alone since she left me. I've only been in one serious relationship in the last 6 years, and that relationship went really well. And she ended up dying in a drunk driving car accident. So that was just a couple years ago, actually, 2021. Yeah, 2021. So
yeah, John, that's why too. With when I started my fight or war, man, people were asking me, "Well, is this for addiction? Or is this for this? Is this for mental health?" It's for all the above, man. I mean, you got, it's not like you could draw the line. You just said it, man. I mean, with one, you're going to get the other, and one's going to magnify the other. So, I mean, you just got to, it's just such a terrible freaking issue that's going on. And people who don't understand, it doesn't make them bad people. I mean, look at addiction, trying to understand, like we were talking about afterwards. The same thing with mental health issues. Don't judge just because you can't understand it. It doesn't make sense to you. Doesn't mean it's not real. I mean, you just explained it perfectly.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing is that a lot of addicts, they have all these questions. They want to know, like, how do you get sober? How did you do this? Or how do you deal with triggers? Or how do you, this and this and this? And so that's actually one of the main reasons why I wrote my books, Pain Tolerance. The other one's The Strength Found in Solitude, Trauma Bonding, and Discipline. Is to answer some of those questions, every trigger along the way in the last 6 years, okay, whether it be my kid's mom leaving me, which we discussed, I did not handle that trigger very well. I had a relapse 3 months into my sobriety. I'm still 6 years sober because we're past March now. So whether you want to use my daughter's birthday or March 15th as my sobriety date, I'm still past 6 years. So that's nice. But that was a trigger that I could not handle, and that was 3 months into my sobriety, and I had a discussion with my therapist and everything. And I'm like, what can I do to handle these triggers better and everything? And he told me, he was like, every time you're triggered, okay, there's this thing called pain tolerance. When you're triggered, your body's in pain. Anytime you've been in pain over the last, since you were 17, if you want to go back all the way to when you were 12 and you were a pharmaceutical lab rat, no matter what, since you were 12 years old, kid, anytime your body's ever been in pain, there's been a pill or a prescription or a drug that you've taken in order to handle that pain. You see what I'm saying? And then in therapy, I also realized that your brain is a pattern recognition system. That's what your brain does. It's designed to pick up patterns. That's why when you do anything more than, 12 times or whatever, I forget the exact saying behind it, but they say, like, if you do the same thing a certain number of times, it becomes a habit, right?
Yep.
And so every time I had ever experienced pain in my life, my brain recognized the pattern that it needed some kind of a chemical to solve it, and I wasn't strong enough to handle the amount of pain that my brain was telling me that my body was in, physical, spiritual, and I had a moment of weakness and I relapsed. And so once I learned that, then it was like, okay, now nothing can trigger me. In the last 6 years, my best friend died. My fiance, the only relationship that I had ever been in the last, 6 years, she died in a DUI accident. Bad things happen all the time. But I can choose how I react. I can choose how I react to it. And the longer I stay sober, the more brain function I get back. If I was to relapse again, I'm just going to go right back to that same limited neuroplasticity mindset that I was in before. We don't want that.
No.
So I started doing research on what I can do to gain neuroplasticity. And I figured out that there's a brain region called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. It's right in the middle of your brain. It's literally like the dead center middle of your brain. And when it only works if you do things that you don't want to do. If you're doing things you want to do, you won't get the same benefit. But neuroscientists have figured out that when you do things that you don't want to do, so you wake up in the morning and you say, I don't want to stay sober today, right? But you do it anyway. You still stay sober. When you do things you don't want to do, the anterior mid-cingulate cortex releases whatever it does. I'm not a neuroscientist. I can't explain the exact, physics behind it, but it stimulates new connections in your brain. That's what it does. It stimulates new connections. And so
that's the neuroplasticity you were talking about.
Exactly. And
Uh-huh.
so
we got OG
And
as the nurse who's going to be able
just
to help with
as
some of
an
that stuff.
FYI, one of the things that
yeah,
helps
he's a doctor. Right? Yep.
exercise. Physical activity also helps neuroplasticity.
And exercise too. I think OG actually watches a few of my videos. I've been known to walk up to 14 miles a day because I'm homeless. I can't drive. They took my license due to a lot of financial stuff that's going on in my recovery and stuff. For a long time I was in and out of jail and trying to work out legal issues that I had been running from and different things like that. So I still don't have my license back. That's one of the things I'm really trying to work hard on this year. And because of that, I have to walk 14 miles a day to work and back, 7 miles, plus wherever I go besides that if I don't have a ride, And you think I want to do that every day? No. But I've also figured out that exercising, when you break a sweat, releases endorphins.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Endorphins are actually an opioid that your body naturally produces.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because
So if you're getting
endorphins, for people who
sober
don't
from
know
opioid, if you're getting sober from opioid, that's why people go to the gym so much.
That's why endorphin stands for endogenous morphine, which is endogenous your body makes, and it's the morphine, but a painkiller. So you're right, right on top of it.
That's it too, man. John, I could tell you what, a lot of the stuff, most of the stuff you've been hitting me
You
with,
are right on
the
top of it,
stats
young
and
man.
everything,
You're
all
right.
over
You
it.
got it.
OG as a nurse knows a lot of the stuff you've been talking about because everything you've been saying, I've just been sitting here going blown away by it. She's
And I'm
like,
nodding.
oh yeah.
I'm nodding my
But
head.
when it came to what you guys were just talking about, so that release, and rewiring the brain and all that. I've
Mhm.
been training for over 35 years, and a lot of things that helped me was being at the gym 6 days a week, 5 days a week, having those days. So yeah, I mean, stuff like that.
Yeah, and you get up and you don't want to go, but you go anyway.
Yeah,
There you
when you
go.
said how
You
you
got
don't
it.
want to do it, how you just said that, that makes perfect for you. Put it in different terms,
Yep.
because yeah, you don't want to stay sober. You don't, like, for me. I didn't want. You don't want to go to the gym. You go. You get those endorphins released. So man, you were right on,
Plus a
spot
dopamine
on
hit
that, John.
because you feel good that you did go into the gym. It's a win-win-win.
Hmm.
Yeah. You just got to figure out how to release those chemicals naturally, because really that's all you're doing with the synthetics is with the other drugs, the
Correct.
man-made stuff. That's all you're doing. You're just,
Mhm.
so you just got to figure out ways to unfuck yourself. Excuse my French, but um, the big one for me, I also did methamphetamines, quite a bit during my active addiction. So oxytocin.
Mhm.
Oxytocin is the love hormone, and
Oh,
that is released in extreme amounts when you're on methamphetamine. Like, there's nothing that compares to that drug for that amount of release of oxytocin. It's incomparable to anything. But that's why I have these.
Gordon.
I read a book one time that said that if you pet your dog or your cat, or you look them in the eyes for more than 15 seconds, or if you hold hands with somebody, say you do have a significant other, if you just hold hands with them for 15 seconds, or you're watching a movie and you're cuddling, it takes 15 seconds and your body will start to naturally release oxytocin in your brain. So whenever I'm having real bad days, some days, there's been days where, I've been having real bad days. The cravings come and go. Like, the addiction is a bitch, and it doesn't stop just because you're 6 years sober. So just in the last couple months, I've had a couple. Over the winter, they were at a friend's house, and I was sleeping in my car because it was too cold to keep them in the car. So I was like, "Hey, can I drop them off at your house? I know you don't have room for me there, but like, can I just keep my animals warm, in your house?" And they said, "Yeah." And I was having real bad, cravings. And was talking to my therapist about it. And my therapist goes, "Well, when's the last time you saw your iguanas, John?" And I was like, "Ah, shit, we figured it out. Okay, all right, I'm gonna go get my babies. I'm gonna go spend some time with them." But you know, um,
Mhm.
I said this before. I, well, I got one other thing to say before we transition into the next portion of it, as we're coming towards the end here. But well, we still got some time. But yeah,
Yeah.
I do things I don't want to do because I know that this little brain region called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex will help me gain new connections in my brain, which, I mean, I'm not a neuroscientist, but what that tells me is the more I do things I don't want to do, the more of my brain I will use
Mhm.
Mhm.
or have use of.
Mhm.
People want to know how to use 100% of your brain. Do 100% of the things you've never done before. I want to go skydiving. I want to go rock climbing. I want to go tight roping. I want to parachute off the Eiffel Tower. I don't care. Whatever it is. I'm down as long as it's not drugs. Let's do it, man.
Yeah.
And like I often like I try to envision. I believe in the power of manifestation and stuff. And so throughout the years, the next 10 years or however long, I'm going to do social media the rest of my life. So eventually I've always hoped that I could get like a sponsorship with Red Bull or something. So I could just go do crazy shit.
Hey,
But
why not? Why not?
That's right.
If you can dream it, you can do it, brother.
yeah, well, you just got to keep working at it. But,
Yeah.
you know, I go to these events sometimes, and these events are at bars. And of course, I don't drink, but, they got good food and,
Mhm.
good bands, and, there's other stuff to do there. And so, I like to play pool, and I'll be playing pool, and I'll go up to somebody and, "Hey, you want to play?" "Oh, I don't play." And that's it. It's just like that. And so I'm trying to kind of get some of this knowledge out so that some of the people who watch this episode can maybe try to apply some of it. But I've read a lot of books, and we as humans have natural instincts. Your natural instinct is designed, it's there to keep you alive, right?
Mhm.
And so if it's something you've never done before, like playing pool, let's say you've never played pool before, your first response is going to be, I don't play pool, because you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the skill set, you don't have the confidence or anything to approach that situation. So your brain automatically, as a default, says, you know what? I'm going to save myself the fear. I'm going to save myself the embarrassment. I'm going to save myself the rejection and all this other stuff. I'm going to keep you safe by just saying, I don't play pool. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
yeah.
man. It's like the fear of
Yeah.
failure. Don't do it. If you don't do it, you didn't fail.
Exactly. It all comes down to fear. But once you
Sure.
lose that fear, and you just start doing everything,
It's
you
game
know,
on.
well, like playing pool, for instance, most people will just see it as just shooting a ball into a hole. You know, you're just trying to make the 8 ball in the corner pocket over there, or whatever pocket, you know. But as I'm playing pool, because I didn't used to, you know, and therapy and the books and everything that I've, you know, when you put it all together, there's a thing called micro learning, which is, you know, there's shots that when I first started playing pool, I would miss all the time. But now just a little twitch to the left or however I hold my hand when I'm aiming the cue or whatever, like that's all micro adjustment, and it's micro learning. And your brain starts to, you know, pick up on that, and that's where that anterior mid-cingulate cortex comes in, starts making new connections, and next thing you know, just a couple weeks ago, I don't know if you're familiar with Jason Sachs, but he's a professional pool player. He plays on ESPN. He's up in Baraboo, Wisconsin. It's probably on TV right now. He's on the Roku network, is where you can find his pool stuff. I'm not sure which league it is, but he's on TV. And I just beat him in a pool game last week.
Woo.
He owns the billiard hall right down the street from me, and every once in a while when he's in town, he comes to check on the business, you know. And I usually know if I go in there on a Sunday, I have a chance of seeing him, as long as he's not at some other tournament, you know, halfway across the world. But he happened to be there and paid $6 to play pool for an hour, and invited him to play with me, and we played like 4 rounds, and I think I beat him twice. I would have
Whoa.
never been able to do that if I wouldn't have done something I didn't want to do in the first place. And, you know,
Mhm.
so yeah.
Take that first step and try. You know
Mhm.
what? And it sounds so basic, but it really is. I mean, just try. Just like it almost sounds like, remember when you're a little kid, hey, try eating this asparagus. Never had it, never smelled it, never touched it. No, I don't like it. What do you mean? You never tried it? I don't like it. Like you said, stop it before it starts. That way it doesn't hurt. That way it didn't fail. That way it didn't lose. But now, just like you were talking about the micro learning, you do something that did work out. Well, you don't do the exact same thing. We got that as insanity. You're teaching yourself my bottom right English, top right English. If I hit this down here, it's going to spin this way. So, here and just by practicing, again, rewiring, man,
Mhm.
by playing pool. So, that's awesome, man.
And you can do that same thing with listening to music you've never listened to. You know,
Mhm.
I like the fact that you brought up food, because food is a big one, right? Especially with kids. And like, how do I get my kids to eat broccoli? Well, you just you got to get them to eat it. And, you know, like when I was a little kid, I hated certain food. I would try to think of spinach. I did not, as a kid, I would not eat spinach, you know? And now I understand that the reason why I don't like spinach is because, and again, I've read a lot of books on this topic, my taste buds have never been stimulated in that way with that food or whatever. So my brain recognizes it as, this isn't what I'm used to, you know, this isn't normal. And so you don't like it. But if you keep eating it and you keep stimulating your taste buds with that same taste of the spinach, eventually your brain, your anterior mid-cingulate cortex, because you're eating something that you're doing something you don't want to do, will make those connections. And now I'm 30 years old. I eat spinach like crazy. And I'm like, well, why did I not like spinach when I was 12? I used to spit it out and throw up and like be all dramatic. And now I eat it all the time. Well, it's because I've been exposed to it enough times throughout my life that those connections have been made. And now I like it.
Yep.
But if you just cut it off at, oh, I don't like spinach, and then next thing you know, you're 30 years old and you've never ate spinach, well, you're not going to get the benefits of the food of that food. You
No,
know,
exactly.
the vitamins and minerals in that food, and you end up with deficiencies and different things. Like, so now I eat anything as long as it's
Oh,
edible. You know, as long as it's edible and there's no drugs in it, like I'll eat anything because I want the nutrients. You
I'm
know.
with you on that one, man. When it comes to that stuff, but again, you know what? It's so easy to, just like life, man. And anything, I don't want to. I don't like it. Okay, well, that's over. It's done. But if by doing what you just said, now you're gonna, after a while, you know what? Damn, that not only does it taste great, and I enjoy it, and I love it, but it's giving me positive reinforcement from the nutrients, the vitamins, and everything else in there. So
Mhm.
yeah, man. So here you may not like it at first, but in the long run, man, you're right on.
Well, especially when you're talking recovery, because you're starting
Oh,
out. You're starting out with limited neuroplasticity from the get go. You've already
mm,
torn it up. You know, they used to call it brain damage. It's not brain damage. It's just limited brain function. You know, like your brain has the ability to repair itself, and you got to put in the work to repair it. And so that's
exactly.
why, like, the biggest tip that I have for anybody in recovery is try everything. Build model planes, build model trains, build model cars, eat new food, exercise, go running, biking, hiking, kayaking, fishing, hunting, whatever. Try everything. Try everything.
Mhm.
And when you do that, eventually you'll come up with a list of things that you like more than drugs.
Oh
And
yeah.
once you get to that step, man, then you really start getting on a roll with your recovery, because it's like, all right, well, I know I feel this way today, but I have this whole other list of things, you know. I call them lost loves. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of addicts used to play guitar, or they used to play drums, or they used to this, or they used to that, and somebody belittled their dream and told them, "Oh, well, you're never going to be, you know, Stevie Nicks. You're never going to be, you know, Chester Bennington. You're never going to be, you know," and then they just give up on the dream, you know. And so
Yep.
that's that. I think we pretty much covered it, man. Like that's.
Yep. Yep. And
I'm
the thing
glad
is
we got
too.
all that out, because I really feel like a lot of the addicts that are watching this are going to have a much greater understanding of why they are the way that they are and what they can do about it. So I'm really happy we did this second episode for sure.
And the thing is, it brings the why. Well, this is happening. This is how I feel. These are the effects I'm having. Well, it's addiction. Okay, but why? And by breaking it down the way you just did, it's giving an answer to that why. I mean, yeah, we could big the big answer. It's addiction. It's mental health issues. That's just throwing a big blanket on it. I'm not saying it's not wrong, but break down step by step to make it make sense. Well, if I do something I don't like, it's actually going to be beneficial in the long run. And so, no, man, I really appreciate you breaking it down the way you did, because, like I said, you can't see it right now, but off camera, excuse me, off camera, while you were going through the statistics and all of that, the medical terminology, she was just like, no, yep, 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 and following right along with you. So I appreciate you doing that, because every bit of knowledge and stuff is helping save someone's life right now, because they're saying, wait a minute, that makes sense.
Mhm.
What he just said,
Mhm.
now I understand why I feel that way, or why this pisses me off, or why this makes me feel better. So thank you for that. But we're not done yet, because we do have to finish up before
Your
we do,
suicide registry.
about which is passionate for you right now. So why don't you hit on that?
Your suicide registry.
Yep.
So Suicide Registry Organization right now is just a Facebook page. It has suicide in the title, and Mark Zuckerberg's a jerk. So when you type in Suicide Registry Organization on Facebook, it's not going to pop up. It's going to come up with some suicide little line about the 988 or whatever, and then it's going to ask you if you want to view results. Unfortunately, there's some friction in the process for finding the page. That doesn't happen with other people, but it's because the word suicide's in the title. But Suicide Registry Organization on Facebook. I do a lot of posts about the amygdala, the hippocampus, the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, different things like that, dietary stuff throughout the week. And then every Monday, I have Music Monday, which I'm homeless right now. I mean, I'm allowed to stay with a family member. I don't know how temporary this is going to be, so I haven't really made the next step. But Music Monday is more than just a Facebook post. Right now, it's just a Facebook post. Every Monday, I go through whatever music I listened to this week. So since I was just at an Allborn concert and Left on Red, if you've never heard of those two bands, go check them out. They're awesome. They're on YouTube. Left on Red and Allborn. I went to their concert just yesterday. So Monday's right around the corner. So this Monday, I'm going to share Allborn and Left on Red's music for Music Monday. And in those posts, it describes, what the organization is, my purpose, and, what the purpose of all this is. And it's just a simple request that says, please hit share if you see a song you like. If anybody's watching this and would like to help me gain my, grow my social media following, please hit share on a Music Monday post if you see it, because nobody does. Very few people do. So, it's really hard to get somebody to act on a call to action like that. So if you follow Suicide Registry Organization and you ever see a Music Monday post, please do me a big favor. It'll help me out immensely, because then your followers will be able to see the Music Monday post. And so without you hitting that share button, the people won't be able to see what you saw, so that would help me out immensely.
Plus, it's free.
Yeah, it's free. But that's kind of how it is right now. But eventually I do, I want to get into doing my own podcast. And I would like to have Music Mondays not just be a Facebook post, but also be reaction videos on my YouTube channel. I'd like to post a reaction video to the music every Monday on my YouTube, start doing reaction videos. So I have like a big plan, but I don't have a creative area. I'm doing this from an Android cell phone right now, man. I don't even have a laptop. So,
Hey,
yeah,
that's exactly how I started too.
If I don't need anything but a cell phone these days.
Yep.
Take it from me and Manny. You don't need nothing but a cell phone. But just start somewhere.
Yeah.
The rest will all happen in God's time, but just start somewhere if you have any ideas to do this kind of stuff. So yeah, Music Mondays is currently just a Facebook post, but eventually I want to do videos on the YouTube channel. And I also share, like I said, stuff about a lot of this information that we've shared today in informational posts on Suicide Registry Organization's Facebook page. I'm also writing books about it. So stay tuned for that. Give me a follow if you're waiting to see when those books are going to come out. I'm sure Manny will know.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna. I know you see me in pretty much every podcast episode, man. I try to follow along as much as possible and give insight where I can. So.
Hop in and say hi. That's right.
Oh, exactly. And now knowing that with the Music Monday and all that stuff, we'll definitely be passing that along. To hit that, to share.
Yeah.
So we'll be passing that along as well.
Skylar, actually, I shared some of Skylar Ray's music on there. There's so many different bands and everything, so I can't share everybody's music every week. But it's kind of like winning the lottery. But I really do like. And the winner is, but I do really like Skylar's music, so I'm sure you guys will be seeing more of Skylar Ray's music on there. And Benjamin Lerner also, I share a lot of his stuff. Kalichi, Matt Keegan, it's not always them though. Sometimes it's other local bands or different things like that. Just depends on. Really, it's my choice, right? It just depends on how I'm feeling that week and the lyrics and what hits me and how I'm feeling, But I try to make that a space where everybody can get some recognition, It's my hope that one day everybody will know about Suicide Registry Organization.
And that's what makes it unique too about it, John, is it's yours. I mean, you just said it, man. It's how I'm feeling that time. So your emotions are going to drive the force behind your social media platform, man. I mean, and you can't get any better than that. Because just like I tell people, I don't want to be like anyone else. I'll watch other people to get some ideas and thoughts and stuff. But I've had people when I first started say, well, so-and-so is doing this. Maybe do that. Do this. It's like, I want to be me. You know, I don't want to be so and so. So by what you just said, man, depends on the mood you're in.
That's right.
Is what's going to be playing. That's what's going to make John Tewell's social media platform take off.
Well, right now, I'd really like to I'd really like to do my own podcast. I've met a lot of people over the course of the last year going to different events and stuff. I've met some players from the Bears team. I grew up playing basketball with Fred VanVleet. Pick up games and stuff. I'm sure he doesn't remember me. I'm just one of the random street kids he used to play ball with at this point. But I grew up playing ball with him, and he's actually coming to town next week. I've spent about a year getting to know some of his inner circle. I haven't really gotten close to him yet, but eventually I'd like to get him on my podcast and different things. And, you know, I'm meeting all these people and setting up all this stuff for the future when I eventually can find a place where I can do all this creative stuff. And I'm obviously, you know, I always think of like how, even though I can't do this right now, how can I still do this in a different way? You know, so like I'm like I can't start my podcast, but you know what? There's plenty of other podcasts out there. I can get on a few.
There you go.
You know? And so thank you so much for that. You are amazing. You're the first person to ever say yes, and it's actually already leading to other opportunities that people from My Fight Our War and the family have messaged me and said, you know what, I heard what you said on Manny's podcast, and I'd love to talk to you more on my platform, you know. And so, you know, even though I can't start my own podcast, I can still get on a podcast. So that just proves like you got to sometimes you just got to rethink it a little bit. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Oh, you got it.
But I'd really, what's that?
And you gotta ask. Manny says, if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
Yeah, that's
my
what
dad
I did,
always
man.
used to say that.
Yeah,
my dad always.
But that's the same thing with my dad. He goes, son, he goes, if you don't ask, the answer is no. So like when I reach out to people when I first started, they're like, who
are you?
This is Manny Vitale from Detroit, Michigan. My Fight Our War. They're like, who? and trust me, they're still saying who a lot of time. But you know, by me, I didn't give a shit. I was calling everybody and getting a hold of people, and I got very fortunate. And some of the people I met right at the very beginning were some pretty heavy hitters who just liked my raw honesty of like, hey, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I know I want to do it and I'm passionate about it, and I really don't give a shit who you are. You know, but I've got a show and I've got, you know, a passion just like you. I may not have 1 billion followers and views,
but we have a beautiful family.
And we have a family who's not judgmental. We are supportive and loving. And I always said, man, if you got a voice, we're going to let you be heard. And I tell OG that all the time. So when you first started reaching out, bam, she told me, we hooked up with you. And here you are for the second time.
Here you are.
Yeah, eventually I want to grow this between my books and podcasting and doing my own podcast, my YouTube channel, everything. Like I'm in my absolute infancy. It started with an idea and a concept, and like I know how to grow this, but it's just gonna take time and discipline and, you know, doing the work, getting up every day and just not giving up.
Baby steps. It'll do it.
Oh, I tell you,
it'll grow.
So suicideregistry.org is my website.
Oh,
okay.
Good.
And that was something that started very early on as well. I actually had the website before I had the Facebook page because I was thinking about, and we're just going to like fly right over this topic because it's not one that I'd screw those people. We'll just say that. But I was thinking about the other registry, and nobody wants to be on the other registry. You know, you can't go to a school or a park or nothing. Your address is public. Like nobody wants to be on that registry. We know which registry I'm talking about. Nobody wants to be on that. So I was like, what if I started a suicide registry? Like a actual registry where when people commit suicide, they go on this website. Then maybe less people will want to end their life. You know?
Yeah,
you don't want to end up on the suicide registry, you know?
Yeah, it's intense. Sometimes you need that shock value to actually see it, instead
Hmm.
of hear about it. But man, no matter what you do, John, I mean, I have no doubt in my mind that you are going to just flourish in this. I mean, I can see it, I can hear it. The passion. I mean, just like you, man. This here and a tripod was me for the first 6 months. So,
Hmm.
yeah, so you got this, man. And like I said, man, we're gonna be pushing your stuff. We'll be sharing your stuff, and we'll pass the word as well to other people. And some of the people I know, I'll hit you up and we could chit chat a little bit, and I'll throw some names at you if you're interested. Give them a shout out and see if you can get on their show as well.
Definitely, I'm interested in anything I can do to get my message out there. Right now everything's in its infancy. The website's still under construction, um, but eventually I want to have that website where there's names and faces of people who have either committed suicide, been murdered, or died from overdose, or whatever it is. And it's all in the Music Monday posts that I do. If you see the Music Monday posts,
Mm.
all that information's there. But eventually, that website's going to be a registry where people will be memorialized for who they were and not what happened to them. I'm more interested in their life accomplishments. Did they
There
have
you go.
degrees? Were they married? Did they have children? What were they like? Nothing about how they died.
Mhm.
And by mixing in people who committed suicide with people who were murdered and people who overdosed, it's all mental health.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, they'll be on the registry for who they were, not what happened to them. Meaning, you might go through all of these obituaries and see these names and faces of all these people, but there will be nothing said of how they passed.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's all submission based by the families. If you want to submit, on there, then you can submit your loved one and everything. And the reason why I did this is because I myself am suicidal. And I figured out that 740,000 people a year are killing themselves. And I don't know any of their names. I don't know any of their faces. I've never heard any of their stories. And I likely never will. And that's why I created the website, because I want to know these people who feel
They're
the same way. You know what I mean? I want to know some of these people. So if I can get a website that's got, hundreds of thousands of people on it, and eventually everybody knows about suicideregistry.org and they know about the registry, then I'm hoping it'll be like a high school joke, like, hey man, you don't want to end up on the registry, and people will really start thinking about that. Like think before you take your own life. Think before you put the next needle in your arm, like, and so I created that as sort of a consequence because, yeah, and
yeah,
so right
yeah.
now,
I mean,
it's just a website that leads to all my social media pages and links, but eventually it will be a full blown registry. That's the goal with that. And
Excellent. Excellent.
I tell you, I have no doubt at all that you're going to make it happen. And hell, I mean, you're part of this family, man. We'll push you. We'll do everything we can for you. And I just wrote down some stuff here as far as sending you some stuff, as far as some information for
For some
shows
people,
to come
yeah.
on for you, and some names to talk to. So I'll send that over to you, who to talk to, and the name of the shows.
definitely.
Sound
So,
good?
and
So
I'm
you
gonna
have
I'm gonna keep putting in the work on my end, man. And when my books come out or whatever, maybe in months down the road or whatever, it's got a lot of time with publishing and everything. But my books, my website, whatever, maybe we can do like an update episode in a year or something.
I'll tell you what, if you got
let
something
us know
going
when you have
on,
the books, yeah.
yeah, if you get something coming on that, let's say you want to get a promo, that's like all of a sudden you just find out, hey, listen, man, you're going to be coming on this show next Wednesday. Hit me up as soon as you get that information, and then when I'm doing mine, I'll promote your show on. I don't care whose show it's on. I'll promote you on their show. I mean, that's what we do. So I'll do that
I've
for you,
got
man. Just
Pine Case with Kalisha Campbell, June 5th.
oh God, I love Kalisha. In
Oh,
fact, she's coming on. I've been on hers 2 or 3 times. Her and Calico. Her and Calico are both coming on here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
but
awesome.
yeah, that's what we'll do, man. If you got anything going on, hit me up and give me a good week notice if you can, or as soon as you can, and we'll push it on our end.
Sounds good. Yeah, I've got OG's email. So
All right.
Oh,
Well, I tell you what, man, John, I really appreciate you putting your personal touch on this and so many different levels. Your personal touch on, the addiction, what it did to you, the mental health, what it did to you, the medical, the definitions, the background, the who's, the what, the whys, and all those answers, man. So thank you for doing that. And yeah, I'll send you this information. You send me yours, and let's get this thing going, man. Let's just keep pushing it forward.
definitely.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. But you broke up, brother.
Oh, I was just gonna just here at the end we were gonna go
Okay.
over sort of what I've been doing in the meantime with mentoring people. So
Oh yeah.
if anybody needs any support before I hop off of here, I have a lot of knowledge on this topic, whether it be PTSD, mental health, BPD, whatever it is you're struggling with, man. And I am here 24/7, 365, constantly for anybody who needs me. Right before we went live, actually, me and Manny were discussing something that happened yesterday. I was in the middle of a rock show, promoting Allborn and Left on Red, and recording some of their show live. And in the middle of the live stream, I got a message, and it was a friend who needed some help. And I stopped what I was doing immediately, went outside, called him up. I said, "What's going on, man?" And he said, "I messed up. I need to talk to you, you know." And thankfully it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I thought this individual had really gone off the deep end, but he needed a little extra support. And so again, no matter what I'm doing, 24/7, 365, if you're struggling with drug, alcohol addiction, mental health, or anything like that, please feel free to hit me up. My phone number is public. All my information is public. My email, Suicide Registry Organization. If you just find my Facebook page, type in my name, I've made myself about as easy to find as I can be. So I just want to make that clear for everybody. I'm here if you need me, whether you're in another state or wherever you're at or whatever you got going on. If you're looking for mental health services or rehab services, that's what I do. My idea is still in its infancy, and I'm still working, hard to accomplish the things I'm trying to accomplish. But the biggest thing I want to make clear is I'm here for anybody who needs me. There are resources available. Manny can tell you, Kalisha, any of these people, Donald Blow, just to name a few. Like we're all here, and there are tons of charities and organizations and churches and people all over the world who are willing to help you. And I am willing to do whatever I have to do to get you to wherever it is you're trying to go. So I just want to make that clear.
Well, I definitely appreciate it, John, and you're doing more. You're not just talking, you're doing, and we definitely appreciate that, brother. And we will be in touch. Like I said, check your messages because I want to send you that information. And like you said, when you start hearing stuff about different shows, send them to OG, and I'll get the information, and we'll start promoting it.
Sounds good. Yeah, the only one I know of for sure right now is June 5th with Kalisha Campbell.
All right,
a
we'll
great
start
place
pushing.
to be.
Oh yeah, I'll hit her up, man. And John, again, thank you so much. Tell Gordon thank you for gracing us with their presence, and tell Gordon that thank you for his. There he is. There, Gordon. Thank you for what you do, brother. Get that. Hey, take it easy, Gordon. Get a little rest.
Yeah.
All right, John. Hey, listen, man. Love you, brother. Thank you for what you do, and look forward to talking to you soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
All right. You
Bye-bye
take
now.
care, brother. Well, I tell you, man, a lot of knowledge there. A lot of knowledge.
You can tell you've been doing a lot of reading.
Oh man, I tell you what, the stuff. I mean, it just not only with the different things he was talking about with addiction, mental health issues, and all that as well. But when you hear about addiction or you hear about mental health issues, that's just hard enough to deal with on its own.
Mhm.
You know, you tell someone you're dealing with addiction, you know, then you start breaking down. It's like a double-edged sword. You know, if someone were to come in and hear everything he just said for the very first time, it would have been such overload that he would have just that would have been too much.
Yeah.
But for for people who have been in the recovery platform, the family members, the friends, especially the family and friends who heard what he was saying as far as why the breaking down, the chemical imbalance, that it's not as you just quit, just stop.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I found it interesting that he said when you're on drugs or alcohol, whatever it is, substance you're using, that your brain stops doing the neuroplasticity, which is or slows down,
Mhm.
which is normal for healthy growth and love and life and just living a good life, because the brain wants to survive and the brain wants to grow and the brain wants to do things. And to think that it stops it, that's another good reason. It's kind of an intellectual reason, but it's a very good reason to stop doing whatever, substance you're using. And then the fact that it takes time after that for that neuroplasticity to kick in, and then you can conquer things better. That's
Yeah.
why those first few days, weeks, months are probably very, very difficult.
No, extremely difficult. And
You know,
but on the flip side, like he was talking about is, just like little kid syndrome. Eat
Mhm.
that. I don't like it. You never tried it. Well, why? Because you say that right off the bat. Then well,
it
hey,
looks funny.
it looks ugly. It stinks.
Well, I
Oh,
would tell a lot of my patients who are low blood hemoglobin that eat liver. I don't like liver. I said, I didn't ask you if you liked it. I told you to eat it.
yeah, I didn't say it was a delicacy.
Yeah.
But then again, there are people who love it.
Yeah. Me.
But yeah, so that was a great show, man. Definitely
Yeah.
appreciate John coming on and sharing his wealth of knowledge. That's for damn sure. And for everybody, check him out, man. John Tewell, go to his page.
I just hope he finds a home. It just feels bad that he's been homeless for a long time.
He's been doing this shit since he was a
Yeah,
little kid, man.
yeah.
Dealing with the abuse,
Mhm.
like when he said about being alone. That's one of the big things for him. He
Yeah.
does like being alone. I mean, I don't know anyone who. Well, there's times where we all like to have our space and all that, but being alone in his content, I get it. And
Yeah.
that feeling of need, that feeling of being wanted and loved, and at such a young age, he was just cast aside, man,
Mhm.
by the ones who's supposed to love him the most. So another great show, and
Wish him the best.
we are going to keep track of John, like I said, with all of our family, man. This is just the beginning of our family, our ride together.
And then Paul Martinez showed up again.
I saw Paul. Everybody, thank you guys so much, and for everyone who was on here,
and all the
Shenanigator,
normal loved ones.
fried liver and onions. Jacqueline, we are not having that this weekend. I'm just telling you, we are having a good old big juicy raw steak.
Fried liver and onions, yummy. All right, Jackie. I know you. You and me, kid.
Jackie, let's see. 5 days, Jackie.
Mhm.
5 days. We will be
Mhm.
seeing you. I'm looking forward to that.
Hopefully.
Or unless you're coming
Hopefully.
Saturday. I'm not sure if you're going to be there Friday
Whatever.
or Saturday, but
if you show up, it will be a fabulous
it's just
time.
really looking forward to it.
I hope your life can allow you to get away and come by, but
Paul,
see.
yeah,
We'll be
Paul Martinez. Thank you for
Mhm.
popping in. Kaisa, God bless
she
you,
had to leave
honey.
'cause
I know
got a show to do.
she's got Talking Trash. You got to go check out Kaisa, Will, Jim, and Tim over at Talking Trash. Let's see.
Kevin came by. Jennifer Mead. I don't know Jennifer, but she came
Paul
on board.
Martinez, Brandon Hughes.
Yeah, Brandon.
Brandon, God bless you, brother.
Hope your sister's doing okay.
Sheila was in the house.
Mhm.
Thank you, Sheila, and definitely sending you positive thoughts and prayers as always. Jennifer Mead, thank you for popping on, Jennifer, and good to see you here with us.
Yep.
And
Glad you made it.
glad you're here. Let's see.
Yeah.
And whoever else may not have
Nikki was here earlier. Donald Blow was here earlier. Leroy was here.
Yeah.
They're still here.
So for everyone,
but
thank
we
you
always
very
love these
much.
people.
And,
It's just such a good family.
we will see you. Are we? We got an update for tomorrow, and I'll be posting that either later tonight or tomorrow.
Well, you've got
And-
actually tomorrow 2 shows.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
One at
Jeez.
4:30 in the afternoon.
Ah.
You know, can I help him? I'm the admin. I'm
All
going to
right,
help
Mary,
him.
You handle
At
this.
4:30 in the afternoon, he's going to be live with Thomas Goofy Vestergaard. That's how you say his name. From Denmark. And then at 7:30, he's going to be live with Tim Snyder.
Talking Trash's own producer
Woo!
extraordinaire Tim Snyder at
He's
7:30.
IT genius. We love Tim. Oh, we love Thomas too.
Yep. And tomorrow, it's actually the second time that myself and Thomas are going to be together for a show, but it's actually going to be our first kickoff for episode 1
Episode
of
1.
My Brother's Keeper
One of
Bikers
many.
podcast. And it's going to be intense. It's going to be as real and raw as it gets from our stories in the biker world and the things that we have done. So really looking forward to that as well. So check us out, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time with Thomas Guffey Vestergaard from Denmark, My Brother's Keeper of Bikers podcast. You can also follow Thomas on his page as well, known as The Sensitive Biker. Right, folks, and we'll have a few more announcements as well for upcoming shows and some changes in scheduling. And just there's so much going on that has happened and that we're in the mix of happening as well.
Trying to work around his
So,
full-time work schedule.
Be
also.
that and yeah,
Woo!
as well as some other things that we are now a part of in the social media world. So until then, love you guys. Thank you for everything, your love and support, and keep fighting a good fight.
Good night.